All new technology causes more problems at first than it solves. It's usually a net negative, and then over time we tend to get more out of it. And I think the farther we go back in history, the easier it is to find examples of that. We look at, for example, like the mechanization of farming equipment, and nobody produces the same thing or tries to sell or market the same thing today that made a massive difference back in the 1800s. And part of the reason is, of course, because the technology has improved. Of course, that's part of it. But another piece of it is just the liability. Like, that stuff used to eat people. It was very dangerous to use. Nobody would produce it today because of all of the problems that it caused back then. And once again, it still made a massive impact. And of course, the technology has improved. But even newer technology follows through the same cycle. We can find very easy examples of this with the internet or with social media. Today, I'm not even sure that social media is a net positive. I think it causes a lot of problems that we're just sort of figuring out right now. How is AI going to follow that cycle? Of course, it's going to do exactly the same thing. It's going to go through that iterative process exactly the same way. But there's some other things that are a little bit more insidious about new technologies that I think that if we prepare ourselves for, we can do something about them. Let me give you a couple of examples. First of all, it's important to understand that new technologies don't actually solve problems unless those problems are very small problems. What new technology does, even if it's well-developed technology, when we bring it into, for example, our business, is it moves bottlenecks and it shifts accountability. Now, we have to be very careful where we move those bottlenecks and accountabilities to. And if we're not aware of that, it can cause many more problems than it solves. So you can imagine a small business, for example, that is trying to grow. So they decide they're going to bring in some kind of new technology. They're going to run meta ads, and they're going to get a bunch of new leads, or they're going to hire a company to do a bunch of social media posting and bring in a bunch of new leads. And that doesn't move the financial needle. What it does is it moves the bottleneck from the lead flow problem. Now they have an improving the sales problem. And so we bring in some technology, new scripts, new training, new salespeople, something like that, and we solve that sales problem. But then that moves the bottleneck again, and now we have a deliverability problem. How many small businesses have been absolutely devastated because they weren't able to deliver at 10x when they increased their sales by 10x? And all that does now is it takes your business and it makes it more obvious to more people faster that you can't deliver on the promises that you were making. That's a pretty dangerous place to be.